it's frustrating. I mean, not that, like you said, not that this result really means anything in terms of like playoffs or NWSL standings or whatnot. Like that's all lined up. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Currently. I am not Daniel Kuzer. I'm Jimmy Mack, filling in for Dan this week while he is gone, and I am with my good buddy, Chris Wright. Chris, thank you for having me, my friend. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, always happy to have you on, and thank you for having me on the sporting side. It was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. It was when Dan said that he was going to be gone for that episode, I knew he was probably a little bummed because that was our season wrap up, if you will, episode for sporting, and lots of things. There's even been things that have happened in the news, not for sporting, but since we recorded, I saw, St. Louis, they announced their roster decisions, and Houston announced their roster decisions, and St. Louis fans are already mad because they don't have a chief soccer officer, and they've announced roster decisions. So at least sporting's in a better shape than that. So
yeah, I'm sure Dan will come back and have a lot to say.
What? That man doesn't talk. Dan has stuff to say.
So. Last time I think we recorded, he was trying from a cruise ship. So, and
that's crazy.
Yeah,
you've done it too, though. You recorded from Japan
and Turkey. Yeah,
that's wild. So we've all at times had to record from interesting places at interesting times. So
right,
fun. I appreciate all three of our commitments to this, and yeah, when one of us is gone, the others step up and fill in, and it's easy because we're all watching the games anyway.
Right.
So
absolutely.
it's a good time. But yeah, we're going to talk KC Current. It was an interesting week for the Current because they had their final road game of the season, I think. Is that correct? And then they have one more home game coming up to finish the season against the San Diego Wave. And there's some interesting things that happen that we're going to talk about here with the game and such. But one interesting story that's worth just kicking it off right off the bat is there were some Kansas City Current players who got called up to the senior U.S. women's national team. Michelle Cooper, Claire Hutton, Ali Sentnor, and was Lo Labonta also called up too?
Yep, there's an injury in the midfield. I can't remember who was injured, but Lo was the next woman up.
And that's super cool because the U.S. women's national team is coming to Kansas City to play at CPKC Stadium here in about a week against New Zealand. So it should be super fun.
Yeah, and I was, you knew that when the game was going to be announced, or when it was announced in Kansas City, we would have a little extra edge in terms of the call-up. So you want to give the crowd something there. I was hoping that, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. Sharples. Sorry, Sharples will be called up. Yeah, but I know she's dealing with an injury. Dan and I kind of mentioned that, last week. But to get 4 players, that's really cool.
That's crazy. I mean, I can't say I'm necessarily surprised. One, because like you said, there's a game here in Kansas City, and it's the first U.S. women's national team game at CPKC Stadium, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But also, when the Current are 18 points ahead of the second place NWSL team, there's probably some pretty good players on that team. So it from that standpoint, it also isn't necessarily surprising that the Current are getting some pretty solid representation for the U.S. women's national team.
Yeah, if you're factoring in club performance, it makes all the sense in the world why Cooper, Hutton, and Sentnor are included. They're going to be mainstays for a very long time. They're all young. And then to get Lo in there, he's having a fantastic last few months with the Current. I mean, she represents Kansas City so well. So to have her on the field, she's going to get in the game. They're not going to keep her on the bench for that one. Yeah. So really happy for her.
It's going to be super cool. Are you going to go to that U.S. women's game at CBC? Yeah.
Yep.
Tickets are crazy right now. I'll have family in town again, so I'm not 100% sure if I'll be able to make it or not. When I last looked, I think there was some standing room only tickets for like $45 or $50, but outside of that, they were like almost $100 plus, even for some of the higher level seats. Yeah, it's maybe it's gone down since I looked a couple days ago, but I don't know, with more current players representing the national team and it being the first women's national team game at the stadium, I think this is going to be one that it's going to be a little pricey to get into if you're a fan. So,
and it might be the only one when you take a look at the stadium size, 11,500 people. It's going to be hard for them to justify a stadium of that size moving forward.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's just really lucky to have that so close to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've been very fortunate that, the U.S. women's rugby team has played there. And we've had so many great events that have already happened in the short life of CPKC. I'm sure there will be more. I know they've built the stadium. So if/when it ever makes sense to try to expand capacity, it is a possibility in the future. Now that I don't imagine would happen just for ancillary events like the women's national team. That would have to be something that would be sustainable on a season by season basis for the Kansas City Current. So, I mean, they sell out every game right now with 11,500. I think they're probably going to wait to see, do they continue to sell out 11,500 if they're not 18 points ahead of the second place team? And that's how they'll decide, do we really expand this or not? But maybe one day. So
yeah, and I imagine just that general area with the infrastructure, trying to get that sorted out before you start adding in 2,000 or 3,000 more people.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they got to figure out the rest of all that mixed use and the apartments, and they got to get
shuttles. I know the
streetcar. Yeah,
it's it's pretty wild right now.
Even parking, and last time I was there with my cousin and her husband, and we were just there as fans.
How was that? That was their first time, right?
It was, yeah, that's true. I was going to mention that. It was their first time, and they loved it. It was my both of their actually first professional soccer game they've ever been to, and so they were in town, and it was like, well, we could either go to a sporting game or we go to a Kansas City Current game, and it was, well, there's no question we're going to go to the Kansas City Current game, and it was super cool. My cousin's husband, he's blind, low vision. He hasn't completely lost his sight, but he doesn't have great vision. So he was sort of like looking at it from sort of an accessibility standpoint. And he had a really good time, and he enjoyed the vibes of the game and the chants from the Blue Crew. And Temwa scored a goal right in front of us, and he was able to use his phone to kind of zoom in and see the goal. And the only thing was where we sat was right in the direct sunlight the entire time.
Oh.
So that was a little bit of a bummer, but they love the food. They love the vibes. It's so cool to have a historic venue and a historic team where you have people from out of town come and they're like, what should we do in Kansas City? And like, we're going to go see the Current play. Like, that was the first thing that popped into my mind, is we need to take them to CPKC Stadium to see the Current. So super fun.
That's really cool. And then the stadium itself, when you take a look at the food, it's almost like a little mini tour of a lot of places within Kansas City.
Yeah. We walked around and I was like, let me tell you what Billy's Grocery is and why that's super cool. And here's Waldo Thai and Joe's KC. And yeah, it was really, really fun. We walked into the shop. I was going to buy actually a TL Temwa jersey, but they didn't have my size at the time. So I'm going to have to go back and get it another time. But it was great. I mean, now parking after, because we did have parking, took us like a little more than an hour to get out of the parking lot because it was kind of a mess for whatever reason that night. But that will sort itself out over time. There's less parking right now because of all the construction. Once the streetcar becomes more prevalent and actually comes down there, I think people will take advantage of that. So I think there's only good things to come in terms of infrastructure around the stadium.
Was that your first time as non-media?
I think so.
Okay.
I've only ever gone as media before. So that was I mean, I've obviously walked around the concourse and such, but I've never just sat in the stands as a fan. So it was very strange for me to be there and experience it from that perspective.
In the box, you have to kind of be reserved and, but I think that's one thing I like about just being out there as a fan. Is like, you don't have to hold anything in. You can just be as animated as you want. Yeah, I'm glad you got to experience that.
Yeah, it was fun. And, the team made me look like I knew what I was talking about a little bit, because before the game, we didn't know the lineup yet. And I was like, okay, so the player, if there's one player you're going to watch, it's number 6, Temwa Chawinga. You're going to want to watch her. She was nominated for the best player in the whole world. And then she's not starting. And I was like, that's a bummer. Hopefully she comes in. And she checks in at halftime. And I was like, okay, she's the one to watch. They're coming down to the goal right in front of us. If there's a player that's going to score, it's going to be her. 6 minutes and she scored. So we'll talk about that game here in a little bit.
Made you look like you were talking about there.
Yeah, just a little bit, but it's easy to predict that Temwa will score. Before we get too deep into the current and before we take our break here, I did just want to give another quick shout out here. There were a few players that were selected to participate in the U.S. U20 camp from the Kansas City Current. So forwards Mary Long and Alex Pfeiffer, along with defender Kate Scott, will participate in the camp from October 22nd through 30th at the University of Kansas Health System Training Center, which is the KC Current's training site. So just more good opportunities for young up-and-coming Current players to get into the national team system and continue to develop. So it's really cool.
No, absolutely. And they don't have to travel. It's right here at home. Lets the coaching staff get some additional, eyes on them. It's always a good thing.
Yep. And it's held concurrently with the senior women's team being here in Kansas City for the game against New Zealand on October 29th. So that's a pretty cool opportunity for them to be around the women's team there. Obviously, there's a couple other friendlies that the women's team are playing against Portugal, some international friendlies before the game against New Zealand. There were some other Current players that were called up. Dabinia was called up, but she has a slight knock, so she's not going to be with the Brazil national team. And obviously, Temwa, we'll talk more about her, obviously, and how it impacts the Current, but she will not be with Malawi due to injury as well. So, yeah, but lots of Current representing the national teams on the international break, or they would be if they weren't battling small injuries. So, pretty cool. Before we take our first break here, calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll be right back.
Chiefs Kingdom, I have got a question for you. What is your favorite touchdown? Well, for me, I can confidently say that my favorite touchdown, it's the next one, because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From the first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. From spreads to money lines, same-game parlays, regular parlays, you want it, DraftKings has got it. Here's the best part. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. I use DraftKings Sportsbook, and you should too. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code KCSN. That's code KCSN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right, Chris. Well, we've sort of gone a little bit into what happened in this Houston game. We mentioned briefly Temwa Chawinga going down with an injury, but overall a 1-0 loss on the road in Houston. Not exactly the result that the Current had been hoping for a number of reasons. I mean, the Current had only trailed for 53 minutes before this game, which might possibly be the most impressive thing about them. That doesn't even make sense to me. I don't even understand how that's possible.
Yeah. When I heard that stat, I had a double take. I had to rewind it and listen to it again to make sure I heard it correctly. But when this, last week's pod, Dan and I were talking about what kind of lineup would they put out. Mm-hmm. And in their last road game against Angel City, it had some younger players. It was, they rested a lot of players. I thought that's what we would see here. I thought we'd see Mary Long, Pfeiffer, and Katie Scott in there. Just kind of give a lot of the veterans a break. We have nothing to gain really other than just points for, to add on to a record.
Right.
But they did not do that. And I predicted they would have, some of the younger players, but they did not do that at all. They had a pretty solid first choice lineup.
Mm-hmm.
You had Mace, Sharples, Gabby and Izzy on the back line. Then you had Lowe and Hutton. And then, as usual, you have Cooper, Chawinga, Dabinia, and Bia. So It does not get any better than that.
No, that's about it. I mean, if you're an opposing team and you see that 11, I mean, there's a reason that team is far and away the first place team in the league. And what's interesting and perhaps even, more frustrating about this game, obviously Temwa came out in the 29th minute. So had she been able to play a majority of the game, who knows? Not that Nichelle Prince isn't a very capable player, but there's nobody in the league who is Temwa
in the
Chawinga.
world.
Nobody in the world who is Temwa Chawinga. Right. So her only being able to play 29 minutes is certainly something that is a bummer. But you look at the stats of this game and sort of the game flow, if you will. This was a game that the Current, by and large, for a majority of the game, looked like the better team or the more dangerous side. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, if you if you don't look at the score, but you look at the stats and you watch the game, I mean, Kansas City pretty much dominated. Mm-hmm. They did not give up, many opportunities at all. They were dangerous, kind of out the gate. Izzy put a lot of really threatening balls in there. Cooper as well. Let's see here. I think Izzy put one through, and I want to say it was Dabinia who was close, who went back post, and she was just a foot away from getting a foot on it there. But yeah, the entire game, man, we're just knocking on the door.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I mean, not that, like you said, not that this result really means anything in terms of like playoffs or NWSL standings or whatnot. Like that's all lined up, but I imagine from a player's standpoint, you look at whether it's on FootMob or SofaScore or whatever site you want to use where they have those like momentum charts.
Right.
The momentum was outside of the first couple minutes, and then when the Dash scored in the 69th minute, the momentum was almost exclusively on the Current side. You look at ball possession, 60-40 just about in favor of the Current. Shots 20-6 in favor of the Current. XG almost 1.5 to 0.3. It just was. This happens in. I mean, how many times have we seen it happen to Sporting too, where you take the lion's share of the shots and then something happens and one gets away and that's all she wrote, and that's really what happened to the Current in this game.
And credit to Jane Campbell, by the way, who's a fantastic keeper. For whatever reason, we've always had trouble with her. We may dominate Houston on the field, but she's always there to cover up their mistakes. She was the highest rated player, of the game. If you look at, SofaScore, FootMob, I mean, she was a brick wall out there, man. And they didn't give us anything easy, but we are always, a split second or a foot away from, putting the ball in the back of the net. She made a lot of fantastic saves. And then Claire Hutton had a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
It hit the post and, went right in front of Dabinia as well. And just, we couldn't get it in there.
Yeah, there were plenty of opportunities. And then when the Dash did score in the 69th minute, it was sort of against the run of play, if you will. And it was
a bit of a counter, but
yeah,
it kind of
a counter, breakaway down the right side. And then there's a cross that gets sent in and a little bit of confusion in the box. It looks like there's a Dash player that's about to get a foot to it. She lets it go. And then Ryan Garris is there to just kind of clean it up and does well to finish it and puts it away. So credit to her for a good finish. She's a good player. Lorena, not much she can do at that point. She was in the right position where she thought the ball was going to be. And then Garris just sends it across the face of goal into the top right corner. And There's probably no keeper in the league that's stopping that.
Yeah, it kind of, I rewatched that thing like 4 or 5 times. I was trying to figure out where was the breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like we did not have the urgency. We were just kind of, slowly tracking back, just trying to get into a position, but didn't have that urgency that I'm sure Vladko will preach to the team, after, watching the film on that one. Mace, she kind of creeps into the middle of the box because there's a dash player right there. They didn't necessarily have numbers, but I feel like they utilized their space really well. And that made our defenders have to make a decision. And I don't think Mace did not know there was, a player right behind her running up unmarked.
Right. Yeah. It's a frustrating loss, but like we said, in if you look at sort of, if there is a silver lining to this, and, obviously we're going to talk about the Chawinga injury here and a little bit more in a second, but we don't, at least as of this recording now, we don't know how long he will be out. So the Current had 60 plus minutes to try and figure out what is it like to play without Chawinga, which is obviously very different than they have done for the vast majority of the last couple of seasons. And so maybe if you're trying to find positives from this, well, they still statistically dominated the game. They still looked like the better team, even if they just couldn't put the ball away because the dash keeper stood on her head. And Vlatko is a fantastic coach. He's going to be able to go back and look at the film with the team, figure out where the breakdowns happened, and they'll hopefully be able to make adjustments, right? And the, knock on wood, hopefully Chawinga's back soonish, but at least they had some game experience to try to figure out what to do if that's not the case.
No, you made a good point. It was a little bit of like a gut check kind of moment. It's like your best player, your reigning MVP, Golden Boot leader, still the Golden Boot leader for this season with 1 game left. She goes down. Had to be like literally picked up and walked off. How do you respond?
Right.
And it looked like they responded well, and you could tell that they didn't want to lose. Obviously, They didn't want to lose. And by far and away, in terms of talent, we're superior in every way on that field. I was really hoping that they could be able to pull one back, to kind of show their resilience and mental toughness. And how would you respond in that moment? I was a little bummed that they weren't, not even for points, but just more for the mindset, right? But they did outplay the dash, and they had a couple of opportunities there at the end of the game. But credit the dash as well, man. Once they went up, they kind of bunkered down.
Mm-hmm.
They knew Chawinga was out. How do they beat us? And they had a really good game plan once they went up, and that's not something that we're used to. Being in the situation of being down, down 1 or 2 goals. So it gave us an opportunity to kind of be in that spot as well.
So obviously the elephant in the room regarding this game is the Temwa Chawinga injury. She went down. It was non-contact. Like you said, she got helped off the field. There was a lot of fear that this maybe was a knee ligament, an ACL, MCL, something that was going to keep her out for a long time. And, they even are talking about how she was wheelchaired into the locker room off the sideline. And so worst case scenario is flashing in front of our minds. Then we find out it's an adductor injury. And she put out an update on Instagram saying that she won't get to represent her country, Malawi, this coming week due to the adductor injury. That says, quote, "I am currently working with my team, doctors, and coaches at the KC Current to get back on the field, taking it one day at a time, sending love to my national team and wishing the best of luck. Thank you for your support during this time." So we don't have a timeline yet, but to me, this, all things considered, might be best case scenario. A weird thing to say, but
Very much so. What I didn't see in that message, any reference to her missing any time with the Current.
Right.
And when I saw that, I initially, of course, I'm anticipating something bad,
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, it seems like you said the best case scenario. And I don't know what kind of, grade of injury it is, but her and the Current are clearly being kind of vague. They don't want to put any expectations upon her return.
Right.
And then luckily we have some international duty coming up
That's a good thing.
this week. So I think we caught a break there. we're clearly a different team without her. And it's just, and not just, from the sheer attack, but when she's on the field, they have to have 2 or 3 players back with her. It opens up the middle part of the field for an attack so much. But with her off the field, they can move up. They don't have to worry about that speed getting behind her. I kind of wish we had a little more transparency, but it could be a lot worse. It could be an awful lot worse.
It could be. Now, an adductor, we don't know if it's a strain or hopefully not a tear or whatnot. So whether this is a week or 2 weeks or a month, I would like to think if they thought this was like season ending or like this would keep her out of the playoffs through the championship, we'd know that.
Right.
The fact that they haven't said that gives me hope that I don't necessarily expect her to be back for the Wave game. I think they are going to proceed with caution because what they don't want to happen is for this to get worse in an otherwise meaningless game in terms of where the Current will end up in the playoffs. So I would not be surprised if they hold her out for that game, and we'll see if she is fit enough to come back for the playoffs in some capacity. But I mean, you talked about how there's nobody in the world like Temwa Chawinga. You mentioned briefly how she's the reigning MVP and Golden Boot winner. She is currently the Golden Boot leader with 1 game left and still may win that even if she doesn't play in this last game. Can you try to put into context just a little bit exactly what Temwa means to this team? I know people who are listening to this are Current fans, but if you look at the numbers, I think it's even astounding for people who watch the Current consistently.
Yeah, I mean, not only does she win you extra possessions when she pressures the defense, she changes the whole dynamic in space of, our team and how another team will defend us. And she tracks back and plays defense as well. She's one of the few players who she gives the same amount of offense or same amount of effort for the offense as she does the defense. But I did take a look at the numbers here, and our total team goals per 90 minutes is 1.84. She is 0.75 of that, of our total goals per 90, meaning she's 41% of our scoring.
It's crazy.
And when you even take a look at our team, we have Cooper, Bia, Dabinia, Lowe. I mean, so many incredible players who, are part of the attack. She still accounts for 41% of our scoring. And then when you take a look at our, the total team assists per 90, it's 1.22. She's at, she contributes 0.15 of that, which is 13% of our assists that we have as a team. Then when you add them up together, per 90 for goals and assists, we're at 3.04. Chawinga is 0.90 of that, meaning she is 30% of our scoring and our assists.
It's pretty crazy.
That is wild.
I mean, I was just looking up now because I think, the biggest name in the world is Lionel Messi, and you look at, he's the star of Miami and such, and he's got 29 goals this year. Temwa Chawinga has a greater percentage of her team's goals than Lionel Messi has for Inter Miami, which
that's wild.
Is crazy considering what Lionel Messi gets in terms of press, and also crazy when you consider how low Temwa Chawinga actually finished in the Ballon d'Or standings, which I know I'm biased. I know we're all biased here, but she wasn't even the highest finishing NWSL player, let alone got the respect that she probably deserved in the final standings.
It just goes to show how biased they are towards European soccer in my mind. I mean, that's pretty clear. I don't think she's definitely with the upper echelon of European players. In my opinion, she's better than him. I'm a little biased, obviously, but
sure.
If she was from a different country, like if she had national team duty, if she was like from England or the United States or Germany or wherever,
right.
France, I mean, that would have catapulted her so much in that ranking.
I think you're right. I think that's the thing that I have to remember is that the Ballon d'Or isn't obviously just a club, form award. It takes into account national duty as well. But that's almost that much more impressive that somebody who plays for a small country like Malawi that doesn't get these marquee international games, that isn't playing in Europe where much of the voting happens, still managed to get this recognition. And especially, was the year before she came to Kansas City, she was playing in China, if I remember correctly. And at that point, she had, over all competitions that year, more goals scored than any other soccer player in the world, man or woman, or in between. So there were questions leading into her coming to the Current and the NWSL of, well, yeah, but she was playing in China. Can you replicate that in what is arguably the best women's league in the world? Not only has she replicated it, she's gotten better. And it's also crazy that she has a sister who's just about as good that plays over in Europe. So imagine if we could lure the other Chawinga over to Kansas City.
I'm sure she's trying. But it really is incredible. And it always kind of brings me to the fact that, I mean, first of all, you've seen her grow. Before, she was just that kind of player her first year, head down. She's going to try to out dribble you, try to outrun you. And if you had to, have a knock on her last year in terms of watching her on the field, it's that she would constantly just kind of get, narrow focused on something. And then there's going to be a player who's, running wide open. She wouldn't make the pass. This year, she's done that exceptionally well. There's not many moments this year where I've looked and be like, Chawinga, you got to get your head up. You had Cooper right there. Last year, I did that quite a bit. This year, I don't think I've done that at all. And then it also kind of, begs the question, like, let's say she was an American player from the US. How much more would she be on the promotional materials? Like, just for the NWSL, not even obviously national team, but, I think the league doesn't give her enough credit. And if she was
100%.
Again on the US, like, she would be on every single billboard. She would be everywhere.
Well, and I think, the coolest story that I can tell, and I was telling this to my cousin and her husband when they were at the Current game, is because they were talking about, it seems like the city's really embraced the Current and such. And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. And I was like, one of the coolest things that happened was when my brother-in-law and sister-in-law brought their two little kids to their first Current game last season. And they were 6 years old and 5 years old, and they were playing league soccer in Sporting Lee Summit. But they come to this game, they zero in on that player, Temwa Chawinga, number 6. They kept calling her number 6, and they kept trying to say Chawinga. She is my favorite player. They immediately bought Temwa Chawinga jerseys. Doesn't matter that one was a boy, one was a girl. They bought Temwa Chawinga jerseys. They have become huge Current fans, but not only have they become huge Current fans, they have become massive soccer fans in general. I get texts on Saturday mornings being like, are you watching Real Madrid versus Liverpool in Champions League or whatever? And that started because they went to a Current game and they made a connection with Temwa Chawinga, which I think is super cool. And I think that is what, beyond the success on the field, how cool that is. I know that 5 and 6 year old who are now 6 and 7 or 7 or 8, however old they are, that's not an isolated story. The Current are doing that for, boys, girls, everybody all over Kansas City, which I think is super cool.
So. I mean, you're 100% right. You could take a look at the other major market teams like LA and San Diego, but what the Current have done with, their facilities, their stadium, bringing in other international players, bringing in international teams to come play in friendlies, and even creating their own, cups and tournaments. I mean, this is how you grow the game, and they're doing it the right way. And they've somehow convinced the league to have a championship here, which I honestly didn't think would ever happen. And then, to have a U.S. national team game here in Kansas City, it's, I don't think they would have ever done that if there was not the investment that we have for women's soccer here in Kansas City.
I think you're spot on. So let's go ahead and take a second break real quick, and then we'll be right back.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talked to them frequently. They know the area, they're very friendly, we know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
All right. So, considering that we don't know exactly how long Chawinga will be out, there will probably have to be some tactical adjustments that we see, at least for the Wave game, probably. But play this hypothetical out a little bit. Let's say Chawinga misses the Wave game and maybe the first playoff game. We'll just say this. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But who do you think has to step up and fill that void from Chawinga? Is it somebody like Ali Sentnor, who is new to the Current this year?
Yes, this is exactly why you make that trade. I mean, it gives you an extra layer of firepower, even when you had Chawinga, for Sentnor. But heaven forbid somebody is out and can't be a part of that playoff run. This is exactly why you make that trade. I mean, again, nobody can ever replace Chawinga, but you sure in the hell can add some significant talent in Ali Sentnor. But, to also answer your question, I think the entire attack kind of needs to step up. And that's not a knock on anybody, right? That just shows you the type of hole she's leaving.
Right.
The last home game, I believe Dabinia started the, left wing as part of the attack, and Sentnor was more the attacking midfield.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is, if we're playing a game that matters, that's probably what you're going to see until she's back. And luckily they've had that time to kind of, mesh and gel. But I mean, we're looking really smart for making that trade for Sentnor right now. I could not imagine, where we would be without having, taken that risk. Not even a risk, but having, given up that capital to bring her in.
For sure. And especially, with Vanessa DiMarnano not being available, obviously.
Yeah.
Very good reasons. But it's one more layer of security that the Current added when they brought in Sentnor. And I think you're right. She is who I would expect to sort of step into that sort of attacking mid role, keep Dabinia out left, Michelle Cooper out wide to the right. Expect Bia Zenerato to stay up top. And I'm really glad that Bia has gotten healthy and has seemed to start to get back into the Bia that we saw so much last year. This team, it's crazy to say when you lose a player of Chawinga's caliber, but even without Chawinga, this team is, I think, the most talented team in the league. So that's why, I was talking to my cousin and her husband when they were here, and they were like, so are they going to is it a given they're going to win the championship? And I was like, well, nothing's ever a given. I mean, you think back to, 2015, if you're an NBA fan, and the Golden State Warriors went 73-9 and set a season record for the most wins, and then they lost in the finals to the Cavaliers and the
Patriots in the NFL when they won every game and then lost to the Giants.
17-1, whatever it is. We've seen teams do this, be historic, and then fall just short. And not that it makes the other accomplishment meaningless, but you need to see it through. And it would be a lot easier. Certainly not a given. It would be a lot easier if Chawinga was available. But the good news is this is a resilient team and a talented team even outside of Chawinga. And I think Vlatko is arguably the best coach in the league. And if there's any organization that can figure it out, it's probably the Kansas City Current.
No, so I think you're spot on. I think you're exactly right.
So there's no game to preview this week, but the next game is San Diego Wave, 2 p.m. Central on Sunday, November 2nd. It's a national broadcast, ESPN, so it will be very available to watch, even if you are not able to be at CPKC Stadium. But as we head into the final match day of the regular season for NWSL, like I said, Current are sitting at 62 points, which is insane. Just 12 goals allowed through 25 games. They've scored 47. So they have scored the most goals in the league. They have allowed the fewest goals in the league, and it's not particularly close. Goal differential is plus 35, which I haven't done the math. I don't think it's quite this way anymore, but at one point I did the math, and their goal differential was the same as if you added up the goal differential for every other playoff team. Close. I think the field takes it ever so slightly now, but that's still when we were talking about how the Current had only been trailing for 53 minutes in this season.
Yeah.
I keep finding things like that just blow my mind, and I'm not sure what is the most impressive thing about it. Is it that they, their goal differential matched the rest of the playoff teams if you added them together? Is it that the gap between the first place Current and the second place Washington Spirit at 18 points is just about the same size as the gap between the second place Washington Spirit and the 11th place Angel City FC at 19 points? Like, these things.
Well, as the year went on, every time they set a record, it was just every game, it was mind blowing because they just kept setting records we didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were, Lorena, the most clean sheets in a season. She set that with 14. I didn't even know she was close to 14 until we saw a graphic. We set the most points in a season at 62, and obviously that could go up to 65. It just happens time and time again. We've only given up 12 goals all year, man. 12. That's less than half a goal a game on average.
And the next best defense is Gotham, and they've given up 22. That's 10 more. So it doesn't even make sense.
And that's with, Cook, Alana Cook going down with a torn ACL. So again, man, this team is so talented, which kind of brings me to, before that, a couple teams clinched their playoffs this past week. Actually, every team from second place to 7 are now guaranteed a playoff spot. So the Current, the Spirit, Pride are at 3, the Reign are at 4, the Wave are at 5, Thorns at 6, and then Gotham clinched their playoff spot. It only kind of comes down to the last spot, the eighth spot, with Racing currently holding on to that spot barely with 34 points. And then we have North Carolina with 32. So those two teams are fighting it out for that very last spot.
Yeah. And the Current obviously are stuck at number 1. Spirit are stuck at number 2. If I'm correct, there still could be some shuffling between 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th because they're all between 37 and 39 points. So depending on how this last week goes, I don't think Gotham, even though they're on 36 points, I don't think they can catch Orlando, even though they can match them on points. I think Orlando has the tiebreaker at 11 wins, and Gotham can only end with 10 wins. I'm pretty sure that's the first tiebreaker. I may be wrong, though, so don't hold me to it. But at minimum, Orlando, Seattle, San Diego, and Portland can all shuffle around 3rd through 6th, depending on what happens here. And that's some pretty significant shuffling because that means the difference between hosting a playoff game and going on the road. So there's some exciting stuff that happens this last match day in the NWSL.
Absolutely. Thankfully, our game doesn't mean anything. We don't have to stress or worry about that. But
it means a lot to the Wave.
Yeah, it sure does. It absolutely does.
They can all the way up to 3rd.
Yeah, meaning they're going to come at us with their best, and we have not lost a game at home this year. So we're, I'm not sure what kind of roster Vlatko is going to put out. I don't know if he's going to want to give the fans something spectacular or try to, really keep that continuity, or if he might be a little scared of, what happened to Chawinga and potentially just try and, tone it down a little bit, to avoid an injury.
Yeah, for sure. Is there a team? I mean, there probably isn't a team that scares the Current, but obviously there's the history with Orlando over the last couple seasons. Washington's a very good team. What team do you think is the most threatening to the Current if they were to face them in the postseason?
Well, prior to Trinity Rodman getting hurt, because she got hurt playing an international game, or I'm sorry, a club game playing. I can't remember who it was. I'm not sure if it was a Mexican team or not, but she went out. She got injured and was in a boot, and then I can't remember if it was her ankle or her knee, but she'll be out for probably 1 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it kind of looks like, she might be back just in time to make the playoffs. Whether or not she's 90 minutes fit,
sure.
I don't know. But had she not gotten hurt, I would have absolutely said Washington. They have a really good roster up and down, and they have really kind of come on into form. Orlando's kind of turned it around, and, Gotham was playing pretty well other than these last few games, but without prior to the Trinity Rodman injury, I would have said Washington. Absolutely.
I agree.
For sure.
Yep, absolutely. And as we sort of wind it down here on this episode, there is the ESPN NWSL U19 rankings that have come out. And there are some very notable, I should say, Kansas City current players who are on this list. Namely, the number one player on the list being Claire Hutton, Kansas City current midfielder. So other current players who are on this list, Mary Long at 13, Alex Pfeiffer at 14, and Katie Scott at 20. But I think we are all, as current fans, aware of the potential, and not even just potential, but current talent of a player like Claire Hutton. But talk a little bit about what it means for, we have players like Temwa and Dabinia and Bia and Lowe and all these players who are representing the senior national team, but then also having multiple players on the U19 list like this. I mean, the current are just stacked at all levels.
I mean, there's a couple different ways to approach that answer. The first one is taking a look at, before she came to the current, right? When you take a look at our D mid position, we had Desi Scott, veteran, the destroyer, who was, winding down in her career. And then we had Alex Loetta, who came in and had a really good rookie year. And then once she was traded, it was kind of like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then obviously we signed Hutton and Alex Pfeiffer, but they were young, right? We didn't know, what they could contribute. We didn't know how they would fit. We knew that was kind of a new pathway for young players. And then they got rid of the draft. So for, the NWSL draft was the most vital way to build your team. Unlike MLS, NWSL draft really, really mattered. Right. But now obviously it's gone and everybody's a little different, but this new system of bringing in young players, I think the expectation was low because we didn't know anything about them. The fact that she came in, just, not only won that spot, but just walked right in and it was hers. She was that good. But then when she started playing with a lot of the national team players and she's getting compliments from, Lindsay Horan. Well, I can't remember her new last name now. Lindsay Heaps. But these national team players are raving about her work ethic, her intensity, how physical she is. And when you watch her play, she's very physical. When she plays for the current, she'll body players. She just really kind of bugs their attack. To me, what really impresses me is how she's able to just be in the right place at the right time every single time. She cuts off passing lanes. She's not giving anything easy. And not only that, but she's had a lot of really good plays where she's sprung an attack, whether it's her getting the assist herself, but she's making the play before the play. There's no way we would be where we are without her. And that's saying something when you take a look at everybody on our team.
Absolutely. And when you watch her play, she doesn't look like she's a 19-year-old. She looks like she's a NWSL veteran who's been out there for years.
So mentally mature. And I'm sure Vladko just loves having a player that, he can mold in that type of, position where you can move her up a little bit. You can bring her back. She's just, her IQ over the game is by far greater than her age.
Yep, absolutely. And, rounding out the top five, obviously Claire Hutton is number one, Giselle Thompson of Angel City. Number two, the younger sister of Alyssa Thompson, who went to Chelsea in a blockbuster deal. Jordan Bugg, the defender from the Seattle Reign, number three. Kennedy Fuller, 18-year-old midfielder at Angel City, number four. And then Riley Jackson, the talented midfielder for the North Carolina Courage, number five. So lots of very, very talented and exciting young players in the NWSL. And the fact that the current have 4 of the top 20 is pretty wild. So pretty cool time to be a soccer fan here in Kansas City with the current. Is there anything else that you want to mention before we wind down here for our listeners?
No, I think that's it. I hope everybody gets a chance to enjoy the national team games coming up. Hopefully we get to see Cooper, Hutton, Lowe, and Allie get a lot of playing time, especially Lowe. it's always fun to see her on the field. And the last time she played, I think she went out with an injury. She went for the ball was at the top of the box. She ran in, getting ready to blast it, and she hit somebody's foot instead. So she went down and looked pretty gnarly, but I'm glad that was at the last moment that she was on the field with the with the crest there. But I'm looking forward to seeing them all play.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun couple of weeks. So, well, Chris, thank you for having me. I enjoyed this. This was fun. It's fun to talk about a winning soccer team.
That's what Dan said a couple of weeks ago when you filled in for me. You could just kind of tell how happy you were to, talk about the current and just have a nice change of pace there.
It's just nice to be able to talk about good soccer and not feel like I'm a broken record. And we try to find ways to talk about the same problems in different ways over on the sporting side. But, we finally have some hope to look forward to with David Lee. So,
right.
But I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you all so much for listening. If you have not yet left a 5-star rating and review, please go ahead and do so. Definitely helps us get found out by new listeners on Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you follow us on social at No Other Pod, at Jimmy Mack, at CL Wright 21.
Chris Wright 21.
Chris Wright 21.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I have two. I have two different. Yeah.
Chris Wright 21. All right. Well, I'm sorry if I just doxed your other ones. Make sure you send us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com, or check us out on YouTube, KCSN Soccer, or via the KC Sports Network app. But until next time, he's Chris. I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.